evil government programs, electroshock therapy, mind-altering drug experiments, sensory deprivation.
I was given a glass of Kool-Aid, and so were the other children. This Kool-Aid was spiked with LSD. It was horrible.
Sounds like something you'd hear about in a horror movie. How could something this sinister not just be real, but also be well documented? MK Ultra. A code name that strikes disgust and fear into the hearts of those that are at all familiar with it. MK Ultra was a top-secret mind control program conducted by the CIA during the Cold War, operating under a shroud of secrecy and deceit. It officially began in 1953, but its predecessor, known as Project Bluebird, had already been in operation since 1950. Sidney Gottlieb, who headed the chemical division of the CIA's technical services staff, was a key figure in the development and implementation of the program, overseeing its various experiments and operations. Under Gottlieb's guidance, MK Ultra was divided into multiple subprojects, each focusing on different aspects of mind control and behavioral modification. The project involved collaborations with various academic institutions, hospitals, and research centers, both within the United States and abroad. The reasoning behind this strange and evil program was simple. The United States government was paranoid about the mental state of some of the American prisoner of war veterans after returning home. They were supposedly brainwashed with communist propaganda. This caused American officials to believe that these ex-soldiers were subjected to some sort of new communist mind control techniques. Due to this concern, the CIA allocated an estimated $25 million into physical, biological, and chemical experiments to be done on unwitting subjects, going completely against the Nuremberg Code. LSD experiments, sensory deprivation, and electroshock therapy were just 3 of many methods used.
Kept you asleep for 23 days. And while I was asleep, they were shocking the heck out of me with electric shocks.
Still to this day, no one has ever been able to come up with a figure that illustrates how many subjects were tested on. Due to the destruction of many records and the secretive nature of the program, the numbers may forever remain uncertain. Only fragments of evidence and testimonies from survivors remain. Survivors of these experiments have come forward with disturbing accounts of psychological trauma, fractured identities, and a lifelong struggle to regain their sense of self.
He also was put in an insulin coma for 36 days with a recording beside him saying that your mother hates you over and over and over and over and over.
The human cost of these twisted experiments cannot be overlooked. These experiments were done on people from all walks of life, including civilians, military personnel, government employees, and prisoners. As you would have already guessed, prisoners specifically were highly sought after. They targeted prisoners as test subjects, capitalizing on their isolation and diminished legal protections. The CIA decided that prisoners would be the perfect group of people to unwittingly administer mind-altering substances to, such as LSD. The goal of this was to observe the effects of these drugs on behavior and explore the potential for control. Different torture methods were used alongside the drugging of the subjects. Some were strapped down with all their senses blocked, driving the poor subject to insanity. Others were forced into prolonged periods of sleep deprivation, slowly driving their minds closer and closer to destruction. Unfortunately, very few of these victims saw justice because, as mentioned previously, many records were destroyed, leaving us with only fragmented accounts and the haunting memories of those who survived. Putting these horrific methods into practice on anyone is bad enough. But why your own people? Why government employees? Why military personnel? because research was research, and they had to stay on par with enemy countries when it came to the power of mind control. The objective of these experiments on military personnel was twofold: to explore methods of mind control for military advantage, and to assess the vulnerability of soldiers to psychological manipulation. Covering both sides of the straw, they had to put their soldiers through hell.
2 Marines were reported to the troop commander for insubordination, no one realizing that their behavior was due to the first effects of the drug. The drug is also beginning to affect the other men. They no longer take cover, they relax and begin to giggle. At this time, one man is more severely affected than the others, losing all contact with reality, dropping his rifle, and becoming unable to take any further part in the operation. In fact, he has to be withdrawn from the exercise a few minutes later.
Dosing field troops with LSD, interrogating them while dosed, using hypnosis techniques on them while under the influence.
You feel the effects of the agent?
Everything's moving.
Where are you, David? You know where you are? Can you say anything, David?
LSD played a huge role in this area of MK-Ultra. Survivors of these disturbing experiments have shared accounts of confusion, psychological trauma, and the enduring impact on their lives. Their trust in their own government shattered. They are left grappling with the scars of their unwitting involvement in these dark endeavors. This is Esther Schreier. Esther's life was marred by tragedy from a young age, losing both parents and enduring a turbulent upbringing. But her resilience and intelligence shone through. As a young adult, she found purpose as a nurse and met her future husband. Together, they became an integral part of Montreal's Jewish community. However, the joy of starting a family was met with a devastating loss. Their firstborn child was snatched away by a devastating staph infection. Esther's strength wavered as she grappled with grief and self-blame. Fast forward 2 years, Esther fell pregnant again, but unfortunately, she was still struggling with the guilt from her previous child. That's when Esther's mother made the caring, yet unfortunate decision to send her to Montreal's Allen Memorial Institute in order to help treat her postpartum depression and anxiety. Unfortunately, she never left this institution as the person she once was. The man who ran this sick institution was Dr. Ewan Cameron, a Scottish-American psychiatrist who was well-versed in his profession and loved by many. But once contacted by the CIA about getting involved in these MK-Ultra experiments, his evil nature began to show when poor unwitting patients such as Esther were placed into his care. Esther Schreier was put into a 30-day drug-induced coma and was only allowed 3 feedings and bathroom breaks per day. She lost 13 pounds in that 1 month. Her records show she couldn't stand up because she was too weak. Dr. Cameron called this treatment depatterning.
Before they got to the third stage.
What would characterize the third stage of depatterning?
Well, the third stage, as defined by Cameron, was a loss of ability to orientate themselves. They knew who they were, but they didn't know where they were, and they didn't know what age they were.
Reducing the patient's mind to a numb and dumb childlike state. Fortunately, once released, Esther was able to make somewhat of a recovery, but had to relearn all basic aspects of life. She even stated that she forgot how to boil water. As for Dr. Cameron, unfortunately, he was never brought to justice. He died of a heart attack in 1967 while climbing the Adirondack Mountains in New York. To many, this horrific period in time is one of the past, with people believing that the MK-Ultra experiments were an isolated incident. Could this be true? Could there be a lot more to it than that? Could these experiments still be secretly ongoing? Could this just be the tip of the iceberg?